Welcome to A Rare Reality, a podcast powered by Jordan's Guardian Angels. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Outreach and Content Development for JGA, and I am joined today by our Executive Director, Carole Bakhos, and our Sibling Support Coordinator, Lexi Levine. We are talking all about care before the cure. That's our topic this month. Before we get to a cure, all the things that we can do to take care of our families, our kids, everything in between, to make sure that we're supported. And today we have kind of a big thing to talk about. And guys, it's exciting. It's exciting that we're making so much progress.
Yeah, it's great. Every time we talk, we have more to report on. So that's always exciting.
Yeah, it's great. So, okay, if we're this brand new publication that we have out, we've told our families about it, but we really wanted to go through it today. And, first of all, I think something that's really exciting in all of this is that, Lexi, you took part in actually putting this together, being an author on this publication. Talk about what the experience was like for you.
Yeah. So first, it was just such a full circle moment because I've known my whole life that I wanted to try to figure out what was causing Barry's illness. And, once I figured that out, try to find a treatment and just better the lives of people living with whatever he had. And once I found out that it was Jordan syndrome, that didn't change. I just wanted to find a way to get involved. And luckily, Dr. Wendy Chung has been so willing to take me under her wing and let me be a family member on the research meetings. And then also she approached me and asked if I would like to help author the Standard of Care Guidelines for the disease. And I definitely wanted to do that. So it was really great to work with her. She's such a great teacher. But for those of you who aren't familiar with how we write Standard of Care Guidelines, basically what I did was I went through all of the literature that's published on Jordan syndrome and related disorders, anything with a PPP, a protein phosphatase mutation. And we looked at all of the reported cases. And then we started to kind of, pull out the similarities. So like any paper who mentioned, GI abnormalities, like how many times could we see that constipation was a symptom? And of those papers that reported constipation, how many of them reported something like a Miralax or a stool softener helped the patients? Mm-hmm. And basically tried to get all of the research that's out there now into one place. So then families could bring this to their doctors who usually have no idea what the syndrome is and no idea what to do first, as kind of like a game plan as to where they can start and some general outlines of treatments that have been successful for other people with the disease.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see that, it's one-stop shopping for our families too. And Carole, I know we were really thrilled when this came out because it really is, it's a game changer for our families too.
Yeah. And last year we had the 2R5D publication come out. That was the largest yet. Before that, I think we had maybe 7 patients or 9 patients in a publication, and now we have 73. So that's a lot of data that our team actually pulled from Simon Searchlight. So it's all provided by our families, to the database, and they use that for the publication. And that gave, Lexi and Dr. Chung a tool to take that and with whatever previous publications and create that really needed document. So especially when families get their new diagnosis and they have little children, it gives them and their doctors a tool to help them navigate this unknown territory, really, for everyone involved, most likely.
Yeah. So talk about what's in it specifically, Lexi. I know that it covers a lot, but maybe some of the highlights.
Yeah. So basically we tried to break it down by age grouping. So we tried to go from infancy and toddlerhood to preschool age to school age, adolescence, and then adulthood. And we basically went through each of those age groupings and kind of at a very high level said what are the main challenges that people in those categories with this syndrome face. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we gave some suggestions as to therapies or interventions that have been helpful for the cases that we know about and who have, participated in Simon's and have been part of other publications. So for example, in the toddlerhood section, we recommend early intervention to try to get ahead on things like speech therapy and physical therapy, occupational therapy. And then, we talk about interventions that they can add in school, like having an IEP, maybe adding vision therapy. And then, we there are, and we do say it right in the paper that we know that there are going to need to be updates to this because we don't have enough data right now, and there definitely are missing gaps. It was hard for me as someone who is in our group of families to know that there are so many more issues that we couldn't talk about in the paper because we don't have the scientific evidence yet to say these things concretely, but we know from patient report that they're very, very prevalent. Like, for example, we know that there's some sort of sleep disturbance in these kiddos, but what I've seen in the group is that melatonin doesn't seem to do anything for these patients. So I really wanted to be able to talk about that, but because this is a scientific publication, we didn't really have the proof to say that. Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Chung and I just kind of made a list of things that we know our issues, and we don't have the proof to, write it down yet. And so, they're basically future directions of things we need to look into in the future. So then we can update this document and continue to serve our families and give their providers a better guidance.
One of the things I think is so cool is that it is a living document. I mean, it's going to be something that's living and breathing right along with us. And as we get more information, this thing will grow and change with the community too. And Carole, I can see your wheels are turning.
Yeah. I mean, the community is growing and the community is aging. So what we're going to know in a few years is very different. Like the data we have now, most of our community is 9 and under, right? So as that number changes, we're going to have more information about puberty, about early adulthood, about later in life. So, right now it's based on what's available, and that's not even everything, right? And that's why we always are urging families to provide their data, to sign up to Simons, because that's where that information is coming from. And unless we have that evidence and these publications, our doctors are not gonna really listen to us when we go and say, well, I read on the Facebook group that sleep is an issue, versus like, here's a peer-reviewed publication that speaks to that issue, and can you please help me manage it? It makes a huge difference in the medical world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an official document. Carole, I know we were talking about this beforehand and saying, obviously every journey is going to be different. So they have to keep that in mind as you're reading something like this too.
Yeah, I mean, this is not meant to be like a prediction of every symptom every one of our children is going to have. This is just a guideline. There's a spectrum within each of these syndromes. There's a spectrum in each of our individuals, whether they have some of these symptoms or not. But this is really just like a guideline to help families navigate that. So when they're seeing symptoms, they can do we think that's related? Is that something else? How do we treat it? What has worked for families? And help them with that. But we don't want families especially with tiny children, to take this and say, well, here's a list of everything my child is gonna deal with. I mean, it might be it might be more, it might be less. So just, use it as a support document and not really as a know-it-all kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. This is not the only resource that we have for families too. I mean, we've put some other documents together. They may not be official scientific documents, but helpful nonetheless. Our resource center, Carole, is packed full of all kinds of information.
Yeah, and we want families to take a look. I mean, we have children's book in there. We have resources about hypotonia. We have care before the cure document. We have a lot of documents that, as we were waiting for publications to come along, we pulled together, and they can serve as a tool to help our teachers, to help our therapists and our families. They're great tools for schools for sure, to support our children and know how to do that. So yeah, JordansGuardianAngels.org, go to the resource center, and take some seeing what's under there. And if there's anything you think is useful and it's not there, our team will be happy to look into creating that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Lexi, I know, this is not only a passion of yours for career wise, right? But this is something that's like deeply personal for you too. And I just kind of want to finish with that today, of why this means so much for you.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, my brother was also diagnosed with the 2R5D version of Jordan syndrome, of PPP. And, back in 1998, when he was first born, there was, really little known about how to treat these rare genetic syndromes. We didn't have a diagnosis, but we figured it was something genetic. And there was a lot of guessing. I felt like a lot of the times doctors were kind of just like throwing the book at him, like trying literally everything, going down the list of like seizure drugs until they found one that worked. And then when it stopped working, they went to the next. And it was just like, really, it was like they were closing their eyes and throwing the darts at the dartboard and hoping that they hit the bullseye. And so, like we've said here today already, this is not the end all be all. It's going to change, but it's a start. It's something tangible that, families can read as a little bit of like, okay, there's something I can do. And then they can bring it to their doctors and say, here is the evidence as to why my child needs this. And, everybody, I'm sure in this community has had a fight with their insurance at some point about trying to get something approved. And this will now even help in those cases, because when doctors are writing appeals for like wheelchairs, for example, they can cite this paper and show that many patients, some patients needed a wheelchair and that kind of thing. So it's really exciting to me. I hope that it will make families not have the same experience that I did of feeling like doctors were just guessing and, actually have a little bit of direction.
Yeah. I mean, again, this community is so special. You're looking at two people right here who dedicate their lives to making sure that our families are taken care of and that the best possible outcomes are there. And the more work that's done and the more people we meet, and I mean, it's just so special to see all the work that's being done. So thank you both for everything that you're doing. Our families are really lucky to have you both. And I think, this is just one of many, many ways that we're showing that changes are coming, and here's some guidance to get us there until we can, cross the finish line here. So it's very exciting, and just like great appreciation for you both. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
And you're wondering where to find that amazing standard of care document. Yep. We do have the copy on our resource center as well under medical professionals, so you could grab it there, and I'm sure Christina will add it in the podcast notes as well.
Yep, it'll be there ready and accessible for you all, and will make sure that everybody has access. It's right there on the website for you. So thank you both, and thank you to all of you who are listening. If you haven't caught our other podcast episodes, they're available everywhere that you listen to your podcasts. Plus, you can watch them on our website, jordansguardianangels.org, or on YouTube for translation services, so you can watch them all around the world in your very own language. So thank you so much for being here today, you two, and we will see everybody again real soon.